will threaten the lives of millions of Americans. You sowed the wind. For decades to come, I fear that the whole country will reap the whirlwind.
I'm the environmental consultant for the site. The facility opened in 1983. This area that we just drove up past is the old section of the landfill. It just had 5-foot clay liner, no leachate collection, no plastic liner or anything else. When it was capped out in late 80, like 88, 89, so it has a very old style cap. Very low percentage of clay, very low compaction. The specifications back then were a lot less than they are now. So the oldest section of landfill was from like 83 to 88, 89, and that's on the far side of the road that we drove up. The plastic pipes you see are passive methane vents. They vent the methane out to the atmosphere.
Great.
If a facility under Title V, it's an air permit, if you go over 50 megagrams a year, you have to put an actual collection system in where you draw it out. But this facility, since it's kind of a smaller facility, doesn't have to do that. Your larger landfills will have an active extraction system where they'll collect it and either flare it or use it for something.
Most people think you have to flare it.
No.
But it's not a requirement.
It's not. It depends on how much your facility is emitting as far as the methane.
Okay.
Here, it's below the requirement, so they're allowed to vent it to the atmosphere. A larger facility, like a waste management facility, they have to collect it and either burn it off with a flare or use it of some type of beneficial use, like a plant heating, something like that.
Could you give us an equivalency about how much is produced here, what that would be equivalent to?
As far as what's
like,
produced?
We're releasing methane, but it's the amount that would be used in somebody in their home cooking for a month. Or
no, I could not. I could probably figure that out, but off the top of my head.
Do we have any cubic feet or anything like that? So what is the requirement?
The requirement is put in, actually it's megagrams,
okay,
which is like 1.105, I think, is the conversion to tons. So essentially, this facility can emit up to 55 tons of methane annually.
Okay, right.
And they don't have to put an active extraction system in if they're producing that less. If you go over that, that's when you have to put in the active extraction system. You put the bigger wells in, and you put an actual vacuum on it so you can draw material, the gas, to where you want it.
Just 55 tons?
55 tons. Trying to think what that comes out into, like cubic feet of methane. And it's probably several million cubic feet of methane.
Anyway,
is the limit. Yes, it's a lot. That's the maximum you're allowed before you put the extraction system in. So right now they're allowed to put the plastic vents in, which go down to the body of the landfill, and that allows the methane to come out and gets emitted to the atmosphere. And by that, you're essentially reducing the risk of methane migrating off-site.
But you're releasing it into
the atmosphere.
It's a powerful greenhouse gas.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
But underground, there's a danger in it going off-site? What?
Yes, methane can build up pressure, it can't release. So what will happen is it'll try to find, by the pressure, it'll find the lowest area to release to. And if that happens to be like a sand seam or something around landfill, it can migrate through that sand seam and either go off-site or another house. Now this facility doesn't have really those issues. It's bounded by New 33 on the side, plus most of Wayne National Forest. The closest houses are right where you came in at, and then Scenic Lane, which is about a half a mile maybe that way. So they don't really have those issues, but there's been a number of facilities over the years where methane migrated either through a sand layer or through a coal, got into a house system and blew the house up. So that's why you have to vent it. And there's also monitoring points around the landfill to monitor if any gas is migrating. It's the responsibility of the owner
The owner of the landfill.
of this facility has to monitor it and then submit the results to Ohio EPA.
Who's the owner?
Kilbarger Construction. I don't know if you're aware of them. They own this facility. They own Jim's Concrete, which is a ready-mix concrete. They own Kilbarger Drilling. There's like 5 or 6 drilling wells. They own Kilbarger Construction. So a fairly larger company, but nothing like a Waste Management or a Rumpke or anything like that. Used to own 2. They owned one up in Fostoria, Sunny Farms landfill, but they sold that off probably 7, 8 years ago. So they operate just this facility.
Is that one still operative?
Yes, that one they sold it, and that one they turned it into, and it has rail access, so they rail a lot of C&D construction from the East Coast into that facility now. It's a very large. This facility on average takes in about 800 tons a day, which is on the smaller side. Sunny Farms now, I think they're doing like 5,000 or 6,000 tons a day. I think it's over 1 million tons a year. This one does maybe 160,000, 170,000.
What's the acreage here?
The total acreage is about 500 some. The permitted acreage, I think, is about 140 some. Currently lined acreage is around 50 some acres. And they still have another maybe 70 acres to expand on. The life of the facility is probably another 50 to 60 years, depending on how much they take in at any time. If you look, the road that we came up where the gray strip is, see the grassed area?
Yeah.
Right beyond that with the plastic white fence?
Yeah.
That's the oldest section of the landfill. That's where the landfill started in 1983.
And so how far down is
It, right now there's a little bit of a rock highwall goes in here, but if you step that way probably about 20 feet, you're probably on about 80 to 100 foot of trash. So it varies anywhere, obviously, from the edges from 0, and then it goes up to 100. The newer section of landfill, they're probably about 125, 130 foot thickness of trash in some locations.
How long would it take, like based on today's standards, to fill 80 to 100 feet of?
Well, I mean, based on what their current.
Sure.
Yeah, they typically construct maybe 1 to 2 acres a year, and they fill. If it was just an acre, they probably fill that up in a year with the trash. Where you can just see the top of the dozer out there, and there's some material. That is the construction and demolition debris facility. That's a separately licensed facility. Has separate controls, separate permitting requirements. It's almost filled up, but anyway, that's where if you tear down a house or any type of structure, that's where that material goes to.
Was this a coal mine once?
This was a strip mine for both clay and coal, for brick plants mainly. They took out the clay for the brick plants. So probably about half of it that they're filling on was stripped, and the other half will be virgin rock that they're moving out of the way to build the acreage. Right now, where they're at, they're starting to get some thickness, so it'll vary anywhere from 0 to about 120 foot thickness.
And that's your maximum?
No, the maximum they can do when the whole site is developed will be 220 foot thick. Will be the maximum thickness of the trash. When you build a new cell, based on you can only build that you can't build it vertical, so you have to have a slope to it. And based on your configuration, you can only go so far, and that cell's filled up. And then you build another one, and another one. Then eventually, it gets so broad an area, you can get higher lifts on it and go higher. It's like at first you can only build a little pyramid, but you step out and you can build a bigger pyramid. And that's essentially what it is a pyramid that's being built all the time. So they won't get up to that 220 some thickness until near the very end of the facility life. You know, right now, they're probably the maximum they're going to get probably for the next 20 years or so. It's probably that 140, maybe 130 foot thickness of trash that they'll be able to fill on their cell. They're continuously doing construction, and we can look back here, they're working on one now. Over the past 28 years, they probably put new cells in 26 of those 28 years. Now, some of them are like an acre, some of them have been a little bit bigger, 5 or 6. But like Sunny Farms, the one that they used to own, they take in a lot of trash. This summer they were putting a 25-acre cell in.
Wow.
That's the difference.
That is huge.
You know.
It does make a difference.
Yeah, it's a
Even
huge
the size
difference.
of the cell.
Yeah. And here they try to keep the size of the cell down because it minimizes the amount of leachate that's generated, and leachate's water comes in touch with the... So there's less cost, less environmental issues the smaller it is because they can get it covered up quicker. If they built 20 acres here, it might take them a couple years just to get the first lift down on it. On this side of the road here, and it wraps around, still has the old 5-foot clay liner, but the cap system's a little bit more modern. It has 2 foot of clay that has a permeability of 1 times 10 to the minus 7. So, but no means to take the surface water off other than just surface runoff. That closed in '94. And then the section out this way is the new landfill, which has a bottom liner, has 3 foot of clay, a plastic 60 mil HDPE liner. Well, we have some of the material over here if you want to take a look at it. About 22.5 feet wide. Part of it has a texture seal. The rest of it they will seam those together. They got a special device called a double wedge welder. It goes through and it melts. They'll have 2 overlapping pieces of plastic. It melts both sides of the plastic. And then there's crimpers that go down and weld that together. Then, according to regulation, what happens is you end up with a little seam in between where those wedges crimped it down. They have to pressurize each and every seam. It has to hold to a certain pressure and a certain time. And if it does, it's considered, it passes. If it doesn't, they have to find where the bad area is and repair it. In addition to that, they have to go in every 500 foot of seam, cut out a sample, send it to the lab, pull destructs on to make sure that the bond is strong enough.
But this is initially, not after trash is in there.
No, this is initially. Because once the trash is in there,
It's what it is.
if it stays there and it's anybody's guess. I mean, they've done studies, you know, it holds up, it's this, it's that. But that's why they try to do everything up on the front end to ensure that's been put in a good manner and it won't leak.
Is there any analysis of like what percentage of what goes in there, like how much stuff could be recycled and how much could be composted, how much food waste?
Back in, it's probably been 15 years ago or more, I think it was ODNR, they did a study at this site where they would sort out. And they did it in summer and fall. I think there was about 15% like grass, yard waste type materials, which could be pulled out, but probably won't be because people just don't want to be bothered. I think another 15% was plastics. There's wood debris. I mean, there's a lot that could be pulled out, but once it gets to here, it's contaminated. It's done. There's nothing you can do about it.
No, I was just thinking in terms of people preventing things from going to landfill.
Oh, there'd be a lot you could prevent.
Yeah, could we say, even if people didn't put food in, that would reduce the landfill by 40%?
Yeah, I think the food percent and the grass clippings and wood debris that was found. Paper, there's a lot of paper that comes in, a lot of plastics. There's a large proportion probably that could be, if it was source separated, could be pulled out.
Do you know
And the OEPA is getting ready to do a new waste characterization study.
Oh, good.
The one they did. The ODNR did that.
Okay, great. And so, at this point, is there any perceivable drop in the amount of waste now that there's more vigorous recycling?
I've never seen it here.
Where does the waste come from? From garbage, waste management companies that are dropping off people's garbage here? Where's the stuff coming from?
There's a couple of different things. There's the regular municipal, what you call municipal waste trash. That's where they pick up from the homeowners. There used to be hundreds of landfills in the state of Ohio. Now I believe you're down to, I think it's either in the high 40s, low 50s, somewhere in that range. So you got about one per every 2 counties. So they become more regional, larger type of facility. Before every little city, every little town, they're bigger and they pull from a larger area. Here, your trash will come from Hocking, Athens, Washington County, Noble, Perry, Licking, get a little bit from Franklin County. The owner here operates a transfer station down in Meigs County. They don't have a landfill down there, so they operate there. That pulls out maybe 80 tons out of that general area. Some of it which comes from, I think, Wood County, West Virginia. So it pulls from probably a 100-mile radius for the trash. Then you have industrial waste from plant manufacturing and everything else. That has kind of the same general broad pool. They take a waste here, aluminum production waste. Actually, it's called secondary aluminum production waste. And that comprises over 50% of the waste stream that comes into this facility. Now, it's separated by itself, but that material comes from, depending on which, some generators are here in Ohio, local. Some come along the West Virginia border, like Friendly, West Virginia, if you're familiar where that's at, Ravenswood. They have clients that come from
What is it again?
secondary aluminum production waste. It's salt cakes, baghouse dust from air pollution control, all related to the production, secondary production of aluminum, where they're either recycling it, remelting it, and stuff like that. The only problem with this material is, one, it's very dusty. Two, if it gets wet, it heats up. It releases like ammonia and hydrogen gases. There was a landfill in up north, county-wide, where they took that material way back when and they recirculated leachate as part of their permit. It activated the aluminum production waste, and they call it a heating event. You call it a fire. Everybody calls it a heating event. If you're a consultant, you call it a heating event. You don't call it a fire. And there is some differences where if you burn a landfill down, typically you're not going to see flames shooting and everything else. It's just going to be where the stuff bakes, cooks, and goes down. But they lost probably in some places 60 to 70 foot of trash work down the ocean. Humongous problem. Humongous. So they take that here, but it's separated in a separate cell, and there's a barrier between the trash. Because really, it doesn't matter too much if the material heats up, as long as you keep it away from your plastic liner, the plastic cap that goes on top, and trash.
Is there anything, I mean, could somebody from out of state or any place come and dump stuff here?
Anybody who wants to can come here. And that's what I was going to say with the aluminum production
I
waste.
have brought stuff here before.
Yeah, some of the industrial clients come from Iowa, New York, Tennessee. This is the only facility in the state of Ohio that can take secondary aluminum production waste.
Sure.
The only permitted
Okay,
facility.
and then there's not another one even close by.
I think there's one out in northern Indiana. A waste management operates that one, but they're pretty small. But there's none that take it in West Virginia. There's none that I don't think that's it.
People don't really
So
want
there's
it.
You don't want it. It's a very difficult
pay
material.
high dollar to get move it.
It's not as high as I recommend to the owner to take it at. It's one of those balancing acts. You know, how far can you push that price up and not lose that waste stream?
So is that considered hazardous waste?
No,
Like it
they're not allowed to
doesn't
take anything hazardous here.
So
It's
hazardous
potentially
waste.
it's a material that you want to handle carefully. It's not hazardous. And there's been a big debate. Some people would like to call it a hazardous material. You know, like I said, as long as you take it in properly, keep it away from the trash and your liners, it can heat up. And then what it does is it'll spike up. It usually gets up to around maybe 240 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pretty hot. And then it'll come back down and get down to your normal landfill temperatures could be anywhere from 80 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit.
So is it the feds that certify that to make sure that the operators of that are doing it right?
No, it's the state of Ohio.
State of Ohio.
State of Ohio has primacy over landfills in the state. They're the ones. Now they have to answer to the U.S. EPA, but they're the ones in charge of it. They're the ones that issued the permit. Now, when the whole issue came up when the other landfill had problems. I'm talking about the ones that had problem with the aluminum production waste up in northern Ohio, and I think there was one out in St. Louis. A couple US EPA guys came down and inspected the site and looked at all the data that we had. Because at this site, because they take aluminum production waste, there are a number of gas monitoring probes. You got to monitor gas, got to monitor the temperature of the liner, make sure the liner that the stuff doesn't get so hot that it melts the liner and causes a problem. So
they don't come down regularly, they come down after they heat events?
yes. I mean, Ohio EPA got involved actively in 2007. No one knew there was a problem until there was a problem. Everything goes to the state. So they pay $60,000 a year just to have the solid waste license to be able to open their doors. They pay, I think it's $6-something a ton for every ton of trash that comes in. That goes to the state. The C&D site, I think every ton or yard there comes in, the health department does get like 10 cents a ton on it. That's it. But all the other money and the taxes from this facility is over $1 million. That goes to the state to operate the EPA and whatever else. Who knows what else they do.
So there are no local taxes that apply?
No, the local township, which I believe is York, could technically try to claim, I think it's 25 cents a ton, but they have to show that there's some impact from that. Now, they don't run on any township roads, you know, and all that, so it's hard for them to justify that there is some impact that they're showing. Any trash trucks will come in, they come in here, they dump here, they'll push it down. That's the compactor. That thing weighs 50 tons. This is their old one. That's one that just came in. That's a refurbished. It's not new, but it cost them $600,000 for a refurbished. You know, most of your dozers you can see running around here are probably $300,000. That hoe there is probably $150,000, maybe more, $200,000. So, to operate a landfill is a very expensive proposition, not including, you know, they'll have hundreds of thousands of dollars probably just to install maybe an acre or two of the bottom liners, and then also the path when they're done, you have to have a foot and a half of clay, you have to have a 40 mil flexible liner that stretches a little more because your track settles over time, and then there's a collection layer right on top of that plastic to collect all the surface water, so you're trying not to let any water in, and then any water does get in, you collect it and haul it out. This site, the old landfill, the leachate that they take in is hauled to the city of Logan. It's because it's relatively benign, does not have high concentrations, a lot of the contaminants. This material, since it's mingled with the salt cake, it's hauled either to Cincinnati for disposal or over in West Virginia, I think around Nitro. There's big treatment facilities. Like in Cincinnati, the company that takes it is Valcor. They take it, they'll pre-treat it, and then it goes to the Cincinnati wastewater treatment system, which is huge, obviously, like Columbus. And it has the Ohio River. But they have their limits and everything else. But basically, they pre-treat it, and then it gets discharged, and then they treat it again through the Cincinnati wastewater treatment system.
It's returned to the water supply?
Yes, after it's been treated, yeah. There isn't anything.
Right, it's held on to.
Landfills or your house or whatever that doesn't unfortunately gets returned to the water. That's like up in the city of Columbus, Jackson Pike wastewater treatment plant. In the summer, Scioto, the wastewater treatment plants, I think, contributes 80 to 85% of the flow of the Scioto River. So, makes you think twice. Yeah, just makes you think twice. You see, like a day like today, a lot of this water will run off, some of it will go down, it'll contact the leachate, it'll go down 100-some foot eventually, hit the liner system. There's a leachate collection system which sits on top of that plastic. It's got piping, it's got sand, It's got what they call a geonet, which is very thin, like mesh plastic. It collects all that water, collects it into the pipes and out to the leachate tanks. Leachate is just anything, any water, yes, any liquid, but any water that comes in contact with your waste. Landfills are not allowed to take any free liquids, bulk free liquids. If a tanker truck full of beer came here, they could not take it. If a big semi full of beer bottles came here, they could take it. It's just the way the laws are written. I guess try to make it a little bit easier for businesses. Any waste stream that comes in here, other than MSW, goes through a pre-screening process where the generator has to document that it's not a hazardous waste, doesn't contain free liquids. You don't like the smell?
I don't know how I can.
The clay comes from the old spoil piles from when they stripped this area, and it still comes from there. And they screen that. They screen the oversized material off, and they're left with the material that meets the specs for the clay. And then it's put down under certain specifications and tested and everything else. Landfill, they haul about 1 million gallons out a year to the city of Logan. And this backside's about anywhere from 2.5 to 3 million gallons. Bigger landfills, you could be talking tens of millions.
And you're talking in what period of time?
That's a year. Rainwater that's gotten picked up contaminants from the waste stream. And the main problem with this leachate from the newer section of the landfill is it leaches out ammonia from the aluminum material, and wastewater treatment plants have a hard time. Your bugs got to be acclimatized to the concentration of the ammonia. So what happens, this has higher ammonia and you try to send it to Logan, their bugs aren't used to it, they'll die. You can get bugs used to living on a higher concentration of ammonia.
Then they're specialized.
With Logan, it's a pretty small put through as far as what they handle and anything. So you can't put a lot of contaminants through it or they can't treat it or dilute it.
How much at a time do you take when you take it off-site to have it go to a treatment plant? Or have it go be pre-treated?
City of Logan, it'll vary because that seems to get a lot more surface water, so it's dependent on how much rain they're getting.
Okay.
Kilbargers haul that themselves. They haul 3,000 gallons at a time. And in a given day, they might haul 3 loads and then they'll not haul anything.
Oh, so it's a daily thing.
Oh, yes. This portion of it, they're probably hauling out 2 or 3 loads every day, 5 days a week.
Do they release to the Hocking River?
No, nothing gets released to the Hocking River. The only thing that gets released to the Hocking River, like I was saying before, this facility has a solid waste permit. It also has a surface water permit, and then National Priority Discharge Elimination System, which allows them to take just surface water, route it to a sedimentation pond. They got to drop out the sediment, and then it can discharge to, well, unnamed tributary and then the Hocking River. But they have limits on it, mainly on some of the contaminants, and mainly is the suspended solids that it picks up from running across the dirt and everything else.
So when you're in a drought, how long before your collection is really diminished?
A while.
Because it's so deep.
So deep. You got such a mass working through the system. Even if you're getting a bunch of big rains, it just kind of gets evened out in the whole slew of everything. Because, you know, they're capping. They've been capping the new landfill here. That cuts out portions of your leachate completely.
Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Awesome. Yeah, this is great.
So get out. All you got to do is turn around, go back the way you came. I would try not to go. The further you go that way, there's a chance you're going to either get stuck or get a flat.
How deep is that hole?
That goes down about 120 foot of track. And right over, you can't see it, but right through the dozers where they're working on a new cell to put in either late this year or next. There's like 3 different cells here, and they're probably about 2.5 years old is the oldest one. Maybe 3. Kind of gets strung out over a number of cells because it overlaps.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
So anyway, yeah, they'll just push that trash down, compact it in.
testimony you're about to give before the committee will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Longtime friend, Ms. Kaiser, said under penalty of felony that she does not know me, does not believe she ever saw me, or the police, whatever, will clear me.
I'll take the phone because I'm not the photographer for the group. So, there we go. Thank you. How he's gonna lay down. Here we go. Cheese. There you go. Thank you. Oh, I think we got a couple more. All right.
Whoa.
I think we're gonna get a picture of that too.
Why is the moon so prominent in steampunk?
Well, it's prominent in this year's steampunk because Jules Verne's From the Earth to the Moon inspired so much science fiction after and even science. It was inspired by Jules Verne's book, and the movie was by Georges Millet, A Trip to the Moon. Le Voyage. They are showing it, yeah. But it can be seen on YouTube. Anyway, so. But, anyway. Can I look at you?
We did it together. The knitting group did it.
Wow, it's a serious addiction, I know.
Yeah, we may need treatment. Enjoy. So you found the necklace? Yeah.
You know, been on one, Mom? So what? Right, right. Wow. These are
Creative.
indeed.
Fun. Starting to warm up out there now. That's something I want. So we've done it again. This year's project is a
They're just
She doesn't drink any. I do. And I drink too much. Two or more.
They're not
Some are small. This is all. And the snowmen are individual.
So when you make and then all that stuff
In the bag. In the pot. So, talk about this side. Fill it up, let it steep. Anyone in the family wants something special? What's your favorite?
Wait, come on.
What does Kodama mean? Kodama, they are from Japanese anime movie Princess Mononoke, and they're coal spirits from the movie. So we were anticipating an anime geek would find it enthralling.
It is wonderful. And I like Princess Mononoke.
Do we do it?
Yep.
Hey, wait.
And I think they're pretty good representations of Kodama.
And the night bus.
My personal favorite is the Davy Jones at the end. Just because the person who made Davy Jones has only been crocheting a year. Not even when she did it. I don't know.
At the age of 17, he had his own physics lab at his house, experimenting with these high-frequency oscillators, really into electromagnetic fields.
go grab the darts.
We're still going. No, we're grabbing more darts. Wait, we're grabbing more darts.
Don't drink it. Hold on.
We're grabbing
Grab darts.
I saw you cranking. I'm a very grabby person. You stop. Grabby, grab, grab. This one's in tail. Don't forget to try to carry this way.
There's nothing in there, I don't think.
Oh, you should always try. Yeah. But this game is very, very fun.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do this forever.
Let's try out here.
And now I have the results of our costume contest. And we have made history tonight, folks, because for the first time in the child category, it's always a fierce competition. This year it was so fierce that we had a tie. So we're going to put this up to voice vote. What I mean by that is the contestant who gets the most applause, that will be our tiebreaker. They will be our winner. So, contestant number 1 in the child category, please come to the stage. If you want this contestant to win, put your heart and soul into the applause. And contestant number 2, please come to the stage. Pour your heart and soul into the applause. Number 1? Number 2? It seems like we're still tied. Oh my goodness, but we only have one prize. Alright, since number 1 and 2 are siblings, we will allow them to share the prize. Sorting that one out, parents. Could I have 2 lovely volunteers to take our other 2 prizes up to the stage? So, please remind us of your names. Marie and Quinn are jointly taking home our first prize in the Young Punks competition. One more round of applause. I didn't realize. Gee, I wonder what could be inside to be designated the child's prize and not the adult's prize and vice versa. No. It's all nice, it's all clean. Apparently they were all marked on the outside of the container, but I am tired and I did not read. I'm only an English major, folks. No one has ever taught me to read. All right, for our best wise punk costume, our best adult costume. Well, we're not making history with this one, but we have seen some really beautiful costumes, haven't we? Let's give all our contestants a round of applause. But only one adult contestant notwithstanding, only one contestant will win your selection for best adult, and that is, can I get a drum roll? We actually have drum. Contestant number 2. Congratulations. Maybe it wasn't her eyelashes that carried the day, but we've still got to admire them. Congratulations. Remind us of your name. Lenina, thank you so much. You did a wonderful job. That we were awarding tonight, but you only got to vote upon 2. And the reason for that is, every year, the most sagacious and wise minds of Airship Athena select their personal pick for best costume. And all these awards have the same merit, but nevertheless, winning this costume means that you have really outshone the rest in the airship's eyes. It's clearly, you've put a lot of work and a lot of dedication into your costume. So, drum roll please. The winner of Airship's Choice is costume entrant number 6, our astronauts. Congratulations. Remind us of your name and tell us, how does it feel to be chosen by the airship?
I'm Dana White. It feels good.
Good, I'm glad to hear it. Give Dana a round of applause. All right. So, stone is going to carry us away to the end of our evening. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope that you enjoyed yourself. I hope you have enjoyed the sarsaparilla, the cake, the music, the performances, the costumes, the fun. Thank you and good night.
You're connected. Oh.
They're selling them at Walmart.
Oh, Walmart. The hip place. Wow, thank you.
Of course, thank you.